everyone, this is Emma from Beanbag Books, and today I'm filming in a different part of my room. I'm trying to figure out where this works best, and I know that my bed and everything is like the beigest, blandest thing you've ever seen, and also very, it kind of looks like a prison cell, honestly. But you know what, sometimes beige and bland, we need that, It's beige and bland that makes the world go round, I guess. And so I decided to dress nice and beige and blandy, so at least the aesthetic is consistent. So I apologize in advance. And today, partly because I still haven't done this, and also partly because I didn't know what to film this week, we are going to do the BookTube Newbie Tag, which is a traditional tag that most booktubers do when they first start out, answering questions about their reading philosophy, the things they want to do on their channel, other stuff to do with their love of reading. So the first question in this tag is, why did you start this channel? So I know that this may shock you, given that my favorite hobby is dead tree-based hallucinations and discussing said hallucinations. But I was a pretty weird kid. Not only did I spend most of my time reading, I was also a complete and total Luddite, which honestly hasn't changed very much. If you know me at all, you know I'm very bad with technology. I got a smartphone literally the last semester I was in high school. I've played maybe 2 video games in my entire life, and until very recently, I had really never edited any videos. I also kind of latched onto reading as like my thing that would like define my personality. And as a result, when I was a teenager, when most of my friends were doing like semi-cool things like playing video games or like, I don't know, going to skate parks? Do they have skate parks in Indiana? I think they do. I was coming home from school, sneaking up to my computer and writing book reviews on Amazon. I've always really liked reading reviews of things. I think it's really fun and creative to be able to use your own skill with words to sort of evaluate and discuss somebody else's skills with words in the sense of books. And now I know that there are people who actually make careers out of writing reviews, but at the time I thought that this was uncool even for the uncool. Like, a properly cool unthing cool to do would have been like writing a novel about elves and dragons, or writing poetry about like that boy that sat in front of you in AP US history that was really cute or something. But I was uncool even for a nerd. Honestly, it stemmed from the complete and total lack of attention span that prevented me from writing anything that would be considered cool by the uncool, and B, my overwhelming desire to talk to somebody about the books I was reading, somebody who might actually care. At that time in my life, I was completely unaware that Goodreads existed, which probably would have been a much more appropriate place to do this, and I was definitely unaware that BookTube was a thing. I actually had no idea about BookTube until I was forcibly repatriated from Colombia, where I was working as a teaching assistant, and ended up at my parents' house with no job, couldn't go out, was living with 2 retirees who went to bed at 9 p.m., and my nocturnal self was honestly suffering. And so I was spending a lot of time on YouTube, and I realized a couple of things. One of them was that I had no idea like just what a cultural and artistic metropolis YouTube is. You can find anything on there. And there were a surprising amount of people I noticed who were making videos about the books that they read. And I was like, I could do this. So here I am, trying to do it. I really wish I could go back in time and tell that teenage self of mine that thought she was super uncool for just wanting to talk about books, that there were a lot of people who were just like her, and that there were a lot of people who were probably willing to listen. I also have lots of friends who kind of gave up reading in college even though they really enjoyed it, or sort of had the love of reading squashed out of them because of poorly taught English classes that they were in, or because they were told that the kind of books they liked to read were not the right kind of books and that they should be reading other books. I have always been extremely stubborn and relentlessly counterculture in my own way, and so I was just too arrogant and stubborn for that to work on me. I really hope I can help some people get back into reading that maybe have, for whatever reason, stopped. Question 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to BookTube? Not really anything. Okay, I know I shouldn't say that because, like, why am I making a channel if I really think that? But honestly, like, odds are there's somebody on the planet who's just like me, except possibly cooler and funnier. So maybe that person's making videos. How are we to know? Okay, so I guess if we're gonna be fair about this, I really want to be a translator. I am currently in school studying translation from Spanish to English, and I realized very recently how many like really excellent translated books there are to read, and also how many people, especially in the United States, just shrug off translation and think that it's at best maybe all translated books are just boring, and at worst that it's just like a shoddy version of the original. Obviously neither of these things are true, and I really would like to talk about some translated books on my channel. I'm trying to read even more translated books than I do now, and I'm trying to read books from countries that aren't necessarily Spanish-speaking countries, or books from places that I don't know a whole lot about as well. But also it's really tempting to read like that really hot new release or that sequel to that series that you started when you were a teenager and now everybody likes it, and you liked it before it was cool. And so I'm going to be doing a little bit of that as well. This will not be an exclusively translated lit channel, but I am hoping to be able to feature some translated books. What are you most excited about for this new channel? Honestly, just like talking to people who might actually want to listen. Also just practicing my critiquing skills, my analysis skills, my argumentative skills, possibly if I have to convince you of my opinion of a book for future other projects of my own, if there ever are any. Question 4, why do you love reading? So this should be like a super easy question, but it's actually very difficult. I had to think about this for quite a while. I think it's because I think people are just so fascinating. That's not to say I love being with like actual people all the time, because that's very overwhelming and it makes me very tired. Fictional people actually don't tire me out though. It's like being an observer the entire time and never having to interact yourself, which is quite fulfilling in its own way. I always liked literature in school, but I also love psychology and history, and I think the reason I love all of those things is because people just blow my mind. I just love people watching and seeing what different characters in a book are going to do next. I was an only child growing up, and I spent a lot of my childhood kind of watching people, and I think that sort of fed into my love of books. I think reading is like a way to observe people without being super creepy, also the way it would be in real life. And I think it's also helped me like understand and empathize with other types of people that I might not have met or had much experience with in my life. Also, there's a quote from Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut, and I don't remember the exact quote, but a guy who's a writer is talking about like selling drugs, and then the person he's talking to is saying, what makes you think being a writer isn't the same as being a drug salesman? And dang, like, that's kind of what reading is. It's basically a drug. It's like getting high, but it's like healthy for you, and it makes you more empathetic, and it makes you smarter. There is like no downside to this whatsoever. And it's free if you use your library. Please use your library. Question 5, what book or series got you into reading? Now, this is an impossible question for me to answer, because this is to assume that at one point in my life I wasn't into reading. I don't think I have ever been out of reading. I'm pretty sure my mom read to me when she was pregnant with me, and I don't think it's stopped since. It has only escalated. I started reading for myself at a very, very young age, and so I don't even remember what like the first book I read by myself was. The first book I have a concrete memory of reading is Charlotte's Web, and I don't know, I think I was like 4 or 5. But I don't think that's the book that got me into reading, because I was into it before that. I don't have a good answer for this question. I'm really sorry. Number 6, what questions would you ask your favorite booktubers? Can you please teach me how to make thumbnails? I'm so bad at them. I am not very good at the whole graphic design portion of the booktube world. That's the part that I think is going to be like an area of growth for me. And I guess also like How have your tastes as a reader changed as a result of being a booktuber? Or have you basically been reading the same kind of books the whole time? Or has interacting with the community led you to discover other kinds of books, and what was that like for you? Number 7, what challenges do you think starting a BookTube channel will present for you? You mean besides the thumbnails? Well, okay, I guess another one is just finding time. I'm a graduate student, so that means I'm pretty busy, and even though I'm spending a lot more time inside and in my room now because of the pandemic, it's still really difficult to find a time to just like sit down and film. I think I'm just gonna have to pick a day every week and be like, this is it. I'm gonna get up early. I'm gonna like look semi-okay, and I'm gonna talk at this camera for like 30 minutes because otherwise it's just not happening, man. Question 8, where do you read? Other than everywhere? Well, honestly, I guess now I don't read everywhere. I think I just mostly read in my room. I read on my pink beanbag over there. That's the pink beanbag. I read on that quite frequently, and sometimes in like an armchair in the living room. I guess the only like unconventional way is I listen to audiobooks on walks. Sometimes I listen to audiobooks when I'm washing my dishes. Oh, I figured out that if you like soap up your dish with no water and then really quickly just like turn the faucet on and off, then you can hear the audiobook a little bit better. So that's why it takes me like an hour to wash my dishes. It's fine. Last question, number 9. What kinds of books do you like to read? So I would really like to say that I read everything, but the more I think about it, the more of a lie I realize that that is. I like pretty much anything that's well written. I like books where I can care about the characters. I really like a well-built fictional world, or even a well-built version of the world we live in now. I love a good romance, sue me. And also I love something to laugh at. The kinds of books I don't like are often books that take themselves so seriously that there is not one moment of humor in the entire book. And I'm not talking about tragedies. I've read some very, very funny, sad stories. According to Terry Pratchett, who of course did no wrong, you can be both funny and serious. God rest that man's soul. So all of those things that I like are irrespective of genre, but I tend to like the genres best that do those things the most and in the best way. So a lot of like literary fiction, whatever that is the most made up genre ever, but that, fantasy, classics, some romances, it depends. And another thing to know about me as a reader is that I do not care about predictability like whatsoever. I could predict a story from like page 1 and I could still love it. It really depends on how well the story is executed and whether or not I feel that the author intended predictability or not. So I really don't give books points for keeping me guessing or having really dramatic plot twists if there's nothing else going on in the book. So I don't tend to like mysteries or thrillers because I often find that sort of the enjoyment of those books derives from like not knowing what's going to happen next, and I'm not into that. That honestly kind of bores me. That's not to say I've never loved a mystery or a thriller, because there are plenty that I have. I'm usually willing to try new things. Okay, I think that's it. Short video this week. I've spared you, I suppose. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a book wrap-up for February. I read a shocking amount of books in this very, very short month of February. I'm not sure whether to be proud or disappointed at my lack of a social life. And I'm also going to be doing a few reviews of books that I've read, like just maybe a video just about that, because I really haven't done that very much yet. In the meantime, I hope you all have a good week, and I will sort of see you next time. Bye!